Hey guys, thank you for joining this Noble Warriors live event that's going to help us grow both mentally and spiritually. For the next couple of moments, join us as we're going to have some real conversations surrounded by a bunch of laughter and just having a good time. So tune in and I hope you enjoy it.
What is a man's purpose?
To be a pillar, open to doing hard work. Sometimes what a man is supposed to do can be skewed a little bit.
For me personally, finding that purpose, kind of lose myself in order to find it.
I believe a man's purpose is, well, first thing that comes to mind is to protect. When I meet someone, I just want them to feel safe and comfortable around me. So I think protection doesn't always mean aggressive. It just means being a safe space for people.
I know being a man comes with being responsible, learning how to take charge.
Guys, I'm so glad y'all were able to hang out with me tonight. So I'm just really curious, what did you guys think of what we just saw? LA, what did you think?
It's very interesting that they put the consideration to saying what a man is as far as responsibility. I think that's very, very important that takes into consideration, but also leadership and protection. Because ultimately, like I say, when you go into being a man and growing up to be a man, a lot of those things we don't really know. It's kind of like as the bar, you think that you met the bar changes.
Okay. Percy, how about you?
Well, one of the things that I was hearing is usually we automatically go to purpose as a thing or a duty, something that society or something that external voices say about who we are to be. And so one of the things is about hearing ourselves, hearing beyond the task, listening to what am I feeling, what am I thinking, and how do I utilize that creative energy in the world? Because society has changed. So those what we understand to be labels and perceptions really were based upon an agrarian society. So then who are we in a 21st century context as roles have changed, as we've seen shift? And how do I find a place where my energy and my spirit can manifest itself and refuel me?
Percy trying to get deep on this.
Oh, yeah.
You're getting a little deep on this right now. Okay.
Pull out my phone.
I know, I'm going to pull out the offering plate. All right. Anthony, what did you think of what Percy going deep? Right, past the offering plate.
Well, ditto. I definitely agree with the idea of protection. I think that's a big one. I think that two are protect and provide.
Correct.
Yes. And I think that funnels into responsibility because you're gonna have to create something. You're gonna have to offer something in order to have value.
Definitely.
You have to be useful to somebody in some way. So that you have to be responsible for that. And I think I agree. Also with the manifesting that creative energy. Oftentimes, if you're following your purpose or if you're listening to that inner voice, to really recognize what your passion is, then that's how it's all right, that's basically, it becomes your career. How am I going to channel this energy that's inside of me while listening to this voice? You know what I'm saying? And if you walk in that and take that responsibility, you should be able to do what else, be fruitful and multiply, have a family, provide for that family, protect that family, all through, that's kind of the pathway to manhood, I believe, is figuring that out and then putting in the work, taking up the mantle and following through with that responsibility so that you can get the end result of protection and provision for your family.
All right, another one going deep over here. I'm just surrounded. But one thing that the guy said that I don't know that I agree with or that I was lost in, he said, lose yourself.
Right.
To find yourself. I don't know what that means.
Right, that threw me off.
So I don't know.
I think he was lost with the question.
Okay,
so that may have been a defensive mechanism, trying to catch up with really what he wanted to say, because sometimes he didn't process it. So he just misspoke. But I think that if he gave another opportunity, he probably would have projected what he really felt at that particular time. But that's also being a man. Sometimes you have to be vulnerable. And in being vulnerable, you can get yourself caught up because you may say something that you don't really want to say.
That's a good point.
In the means of what you really want to say.
Or just using words to cover up something because you're not really sure of what you want to say or where you want to go. Right. So you're just saying words. But
then again, like I said, that the bar changes because he may be in question of his identity. So even as you may ask the question, he may be like, am I a man?
Yeah.
Or has he ever seen a man?
Right.
Because we may look at it as male and female as opposed to man.
Okay.
So that switches it up.
All right, so I got 3
something for
people.
you. I appreciate you. You got me thinking.
Good. All right.
Good. Yeah.
The only thing I could think he would have been trying to say, lose yourself to find yourself, is I think it may have been a more, no offense, like a more rudimentary way of saying, trying to figure out what his inner voice is telling him to pursue. You know what I'm saying? So he may have to unlearn. You say as time changed, everything used to be based on agrarian society, but now we got technology and things. He may have to unlearn some things, or he may have to deconstruct some of the pressures that were put on him, or some of the shaping that may have been done to really kind of do the soul searching to find in himself what it is that his calling is to.
Now, see, that makes sense.
That's
to
the
me.
only. That's the thing. That's the only
got
thing I could maybe think he may have been trying to articulate.
No, I agree with you, because the aspect of it is that masculinity, maleness, manhood, what it means to be a man, has shifted and changed. So like you say, the images and perceptions that were given about what it means to be the one who is the authoritative figure, the one who is the corrector, the one who is the individual who is supposed to detach from their emotions, the ones that's supposed to take the full responsibility of making sure everything is in order and in alignment. That's shifted. And so now who am I, and what does that mean, and how do I, co-partner, co-create? How do I do these things? And how do I do that, as you said, with deconstructing, leaving these images, and what does it take to construct new perceptions?
Wow. Yeah, and I guess for me, the only thing, and I hear you, and I think we still have to be careful though when we do that, because if we take the conventional wisdom of society, that can go contrary to God's word.
That's correct.
And so from where I sit, I say the word of God has to be our roadmap. So even as we deconstruct and trying to find ourselves or lose ourselves, I still say that we have a blueprint, a roadmap for how we should be constructed. So that's what I look at when I see the purpose of a man is contained fully in God's word.
And I don't think it's ever changed. I think that the definition of it, like you say, masculinity, that maybe society's framing of what it means to be a man has changed, but I don't think man's purpose has ever changed. Ever. Since creation till now. Yeah, we may have lost that and been, but it's not, I think at its essence, the truth that the man's purpose has never changed.
And I think that's where society comes in. Like you said, both of y'all are wrestling with, a lot of brothers don't know what does that mean, because at the spiritual core of me and the connectedness relationally with God, creation, and my very essence, if I don't refuel that, if I don't strengthen that, then I'm going to hear all of these other voices and these perceptions. And like you said, you saw it when he said, I got to lose myself. Well, what does that mean?
Right.
Well, that means that possibly there's a void there.
Yeah.
And how do I feel that void? Yeah. And what voice do I put in there that's going to feel that? Yeah.
And believe me, there are plenty of voices.
Yes,
the universal law is where there's a vacuum, something will come in
every
to
time.
fill it every time.
Every time.
Yeah. So and that's where we've got to be as men to say, okay, what is the blueprint? What is the definition of manhood? And I love what you said.
I did too.
But the purpose of man has not changed.
There you go.
If God said it, then that is what it is, regardless of what the world says, society, the forces around us. But we have to be clear on what our role is as men, and then be able to share that with other men who are looking, who are looking for guidance, who are looking for direction, who are looking to fill that vacuum.
Or maybe simply looking. Maybe they haven't asked you for a lick of advice, but they have just observed your walk. You got to go with what works. It's like, this guy seems to be doing all right. What is it about his philosophy that, that has got him on this trajectory that may just inspire just the walk itself? What you say, when necessary, use words. Preach the gospel at all. He says all that. Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. Yeah, so that's just maybe not even those looking. They may think they found it, their happiness, or I know I'll just gotta, what we call it, get a bag now. I just gotta get some money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That may be just what they're chasing, but like they'll see, you know, the joy, because that's the real difference is like the joy. You know, when you have a peace, you need peace to have joy, and people who are constantly chasing don't have peace.
Wow.
Right.
So that's the lack. They may be happy momentarily, but they don't have a like a slow burning joy. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's I don't know, when you can find that when you can find that balance of responsibility, and when you can find that balance and obtain that peace, I think that's when you're like in alignment with God, and that's you're fulfilling your purpose and your duties as a man. I think when you have that turmoil and that unrest in your spirit, I think as a man you need to check yourself. Right. You know, at that point.
Yeah. So what you got to say back there from the peanut gallery, Jason?
You know what? Just hearing what everybody's sharing is real good. For me, it seems like it goes back to identity. When we talk about that purpose side, when we talk about a lot of guys are leaning towards what I need to do instead of what I need to be or what I need to become. So that identity, that who you are, and I think as it goes back to scripture, ultimately for me it lands at how do I glorify God? Who is God to me? What does that relationship look like? Identity. When I find that out, I know who I am as a being, as a person. I'm a child of God, a son of God. Then everything else flows from there. Wow. So whether or not I want to be a coach, if I want to be a driver, I want to be a movie producer, whatever it is, whatever I want to do, all of that it springs forth out of who I am as it relates to identity. Right.
That was pretty good from the peanut gallery, wasn't it? We might let him come to the table. What do you think? We might let him come to the table a little bit.
You got to do a little bit more. You got to grow. His weight got to get heavier.
How do you deal with failure?
I think for me, dealing with failure is all about learning from it, of course, but what exactly does that mean? It's somewhat hard to answer. I can be a very prideful person, so going to someone else and asking for help is something that I've always had to struggle with. One area that's hard for me is being a stepdad. Where to draw the lines of boundary is kind of hard, especially with the dynamics of the household.
I probably put too much on myself. I had to constantly be earning. And when I didn't earn what I had expected, I felt like a failure.
Off the bat, I'm just like super hard on myself.
It's usually the smaller things, like when I mess up on the smaller things that should have been avoided or not really many people mess up on, but somehow I did.
So caught up on my mistakes that I didn't see the lessons in it.
Naturally, I get very angry.
Always checking up on me. What now? Oh, now you checking my cell phone? Now we checking cell phones. This is ridiculous.
So, Anthony, what would you say to that? How do you deal with failure?
I think I deal with failure pretty well, honestly. I experience the emotions. I allow myself to feel the frustration, to feel the anger, to feel all of the negative feelings that come along with a sense of inadequacy. You know, I just allow myself to feel that, and then I just let it go. And then so if I had to like I don't hold on to it. I certainly don't, because that's like an impediment to my progress, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? If I'm weighed down by those negative feelings, then where am I going to find the motivation to propel myself forward? You know what I'm saying? To get myself out of that failed place. So I would say probably if I had to like put a method on it, I'd say probably narrow your focus. So like just zoom in, instead of thinking, oh, I have to lose this much amount of weight, or I have to make this much amount of money, or instead of having like these long term, just do what you need to do for that day. Just make the decision. I was having a conversation with one of my boys a long time ago. He's like, man, I haven't been to church in all these years. I can't go back now. I'm like, because he said he'd feel bad, you know, like I ain't been back in a while. It'd be like trying to catch up on a season of like things that's 7 seasons in. You got to catch up just to have the conversation and you know, be a part. But I was saying like everybody, the person who's go to church every single Sunday and the person who hasn't been to church in 7 years, when this coming Sunday comes, you guys have the opportunity to make the exact same decision. I can go to church today. None of the fact that you haven't been to church in the last 7 years, it makes no difference about your decision to go to church today. So I would just narrow my focus. You know, yeah, you may have failed, whatever, but today, do what you got to do for today. So narrow your focus, and then I'd say the second is increase your resolve. You know what I'm saying? Because once you know that, just make the decision to do it. Because I hate excuses like about why something didn't go the way that you wanted or why something may have failed. You didn't do what you were supposed to do to make it happen. Just do what you were supposed to do. So just narrow your focus. This day, I'm going to do what I need to do, and failure will elude you. It just will evade you.
It's another philosophy you just dropped.
It just will. It will just
leave you, huh?
It'll just go.
It's gonna go. Okay.
Yep.
It sounds simplistic,
but
I think it sounds simplistic, but I think that once you're in the midst of your failure, there's remorse that comes with it. And even though you may make an excuse for it, it's still a fact that you have to come to the decision that, how do I change? How do I shift my purpose? How do I shift what I feel? Because it's also it's a bundle of joy. It's a bundle, like not saying a bundle of joy, but it's a bundle of so many things that you're going through. Because once you fail someone, it's like a domino effect. Who else does it affect? Right. So it's not just you that have failed; you failed others.
I guess, but then what do you do? So does your? Because you say your purpose changed. I don't think your purpose changed. I don't think your mission changed. I don't think anything has to change other than that you need to do what you are supposed to do.
Right.
So no matter who you hurt, continue to do what you're supposed to do, and over time they will heal. Over time you will be reliable. Over time that failure will be forgotten if you continue to do what you're supposed to do, regardless of who you hurt.
But the whole thing is that you're thinking with the end in mind. You ain't thinking of the right now. The right now is what you're dealing with. That's the failure.
That's good.
So that's where you're in battle with.
Failure's past.
No, it isn't, because you're still existing in that failure. Because the only way that you can get out of that failure is that you have to meet it. You have to face it.
Right.
Because if you're just saying, oh, I failed and it's over with, that means you never cared about failing. Because you should care about failing.
Jump in.
Or never processed why.
Why what?
Why did you make the decisions and the choices? What was informing you? What was leading you into the choices and the decisions and the perceptions that was guiding to your behavior? See, the aspect of it is that a lot of times what we do, because of the pain that's going on, what we'll do is we'll pass by it, we'll deflect from it.
Definitely.
We begin to start ignoring it. And then ultimately, I will ignore, as he was bringing out, I'll ignore the people that were impacted by my choice and by my decision. I didn't listen to my inner self. I did not listen to what was fueling me, what was feeding me, what was guiding me, what were the beliefs, what were the thoughts. That's that why that's in there. I was with you when you said the inferiority. I got that because I'm right there with you. Inferiority, insecurity, that's something that's governing, that's guiding, that's impacting. My behavior didn't just jump up.
Right. But that's a learned behavior.
There you go.
And that's from what you've seen amongst others.
Because I would say this, nobody wakes up and say, I plan to fail today.
At all.
Nobody.
No.
Nobody. But it is a choice. It is
Do they
about
not, though?
no.
I think sometimes you do. I think so. If you never clocked into work and said, "I am not going to do anything today."
But
you've
that's
never.
not
That is a
planning to fail.
That's the opposite of working. That's
Okay, so then
you literally failed at your job,
but
you decided to before you even got to the job.
But you made a decision at that time.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
And what was informing the fact that you woke up? You didn't just wake up. There's something that's fueling.
Yeah.
That's saying, I am not going to do anything.
Today. Yes.
That's
So something inside you had you on that.
Yeah.
It wasn't the failure part. The failure was the ending result. Like, I'm gonna fail because.
So where does the failure? So you're saying that the failure is not like not working at work. The failure is
It's the reason why you want to fail at work. It's your boss. It's your coworkers.
Right.
It's somebody that is making you say, I'm willing to fail today.
Or it might not even be that deep. I'm tired. I don't want to work today.
Yeah, what if you just
That's a more simplistic
you
thing
never
about
woke
it.
up and anyway, let's say other friends of mine in college or something way back in the day, they would definitely wake up sometimes and just say, we're gonna make bad decisions tonight. Like we're gonna have a party, we're gonna all get drunk, we're gonna invite a bunch of people over with the sole purpose of making some risky and somewhat regrettable decisions.
Right.
So if you would like to participate in that, come up. Like people definitely. I think sometimes it's not that like what's fueling you. I think sometimes temptation is just alluring. Sometimes like you just want to do what you want to do, even though it's not in alignment with your higher purpose.
And you
and
just
that
gave
can be
me
a
the
failure.
fuel. You just gave me the fuel. I want to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy. That's the impetus.
Okay.
It's not.
Sure.
So the aspect
we
of,
was born in the sin.
That's
though, right?
right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
why?
We was born in the sin, though, correct? So that's why you want to sin, because it's easy.
Yeah, but that would so. Ooh. Okay, so you okay because at that point you've only failed God then because you are doing exactly what you are. They say supposed to be in the world but not of the world. You're in the world and of the world. You're not out of place.
That is correct.
But because you're not being like a peculiar person, because you're not
As I said
living
at the
up to a
beginning,
different standard.
yeah, your parents sent you to college, right?
Yeah.
They sent you to college, so you're failing them. Yeah, you make it seem like I'm failing God, but you're failing
I'm gonna say
everybody else that's
amen
involved.
to that.
You're
And
failing everybody.
myself.
Yeah,
You're
feeling
failing
yourself.
yourself, and you're failing everybody else that is connected to you.
And again, the aspect of it is,
Yes.
now you failing you because the very core purpose. And I might be pissed off at God. I might be the reward is not there. I don't see any movement. I'm bored. There are a lot of things that's going on inside of a person at the conscious and unconscious level that's informing me that I need to take a look at to see. It ain't just, I might say it with my mouth that I'm going to get up and I'm just going to make bad decisions. But that's some other things.
Yeah.
Because the aspect of sin, a lot of times what we do is, even in that Hebrew and that Greek, what we'll do is we'll say sin. And what we say is it's a behavior. But sin is not the behavior.
Right.
Is it not?
It is not the behavior.
Okay. Well, what is it?
The aspect of sin means to be estranged from God and the ground of one's being. The behavior is what I am doing, trying to feel where God and I should be in relationship.
So what does he hold you accountable for? Are you held accountable for your thoughts as much as are your thoughts and actions weighed the same on the sin scale?
See, you already start talking about they are weighed on the sin scale. What informs me to estrange myself from God? It's thoughts, it's beliefs, it's feelings.
And then we act on it.
Then we act.
Then we act.
So your action is the last result of what it is that you've already been thinking.
I think that's the most important. I don't care. I don't care how racist somebody is. If they speak to me respectfully, I have absolutely no issue with them. What they think about me in their head, I don't care. It does not offend me. It does not bother me because the behavior that was manifested was respectful. That's all I don't think it's the I think the behavior matters more than the thought.
But then I think we're moving into a different area where you're talking about judging. We can't judge what's in anybody's heart.
Right.
So all we can judge is the action. So I can think about killing somebody.
But if you didn't kill them, you are no worse of a person. I believe that.
And in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the law, but in the eyes of God, God says that if you think it,
you've already
committed the act.
Okay.
Right?
So at what point are we going to say that that's not true because it's not true?
No,
that is.
but,
so at what point are we going to say that's not true?
But the larger issue is, again, the acts come out of what's in a man's heart.
Correct.
And so that's the larger act. That's all that God is trying to get us to understand is be careful about what we allow to come into our hearts, because eventually it will bring birth to an act, and that act would be contrary to my will. That's the larger.
Yes.
The
I
larger
mean, if you
point.
have the discipline to manifest behaviors that are productive, that are respectful, that aren't sinful, that aren't murderous, that aren't that aren't the actual action. You know what I'm saying?
The word,
do your thing. You're working in the right direction.
The word that you keep using is if, and the other part is that if you continue to feed, which is going to happen, such as a person can be respectful to you and be a racist in their heart. The second part of that perception is if they have power to inform policies and actions, they are an intelligent racist who makes policies that will impact your community, impact your family. So it's more than just.
But that's now a behavior. Once you've decided to alter policy to put a specific group at a disadvantage, now that's a sinful behavior, because now you're trying to deprive and you're trying to take something from somebody. You're trying to deprive them of something.
At the impetus of a human being, at the heart level, which the heart, if you read Greek and Hebrew, is cardia and leb, which means will, urge, drive, thought, passion, all of that form behavior. So that's
that out, man.
Yeah, right. You got a little Greek, little Greek, Hebrew, cardia. Is that Koine Greek or you know?
Hey, you gotta stop inviting him, man. We got
for real. Wait a minute. I hear the peanut gallery. Wait, what you got?
Good.
Can you translate?
We're not talking about eating food, man.
I think as they're saying, it basically goes back to what the state and the nature of the heart is.
That's it.
And as when you address what the state and the nature of the heart is, that's going to obviously influence what you do, what you say, what you think, where you go, how you behave, all those things. Then it goes back to the question: if we say I'm a failure, or how do I deal with failure? What's coming to mind for me is that do I feel like I've failed, or have I actually failed?
Definitely.
Right? And I think that's something that we can definitely wrestle with, to say like, hey, am I actual failure in this, or do I just feel the way that I'm feeling? Does that make sense?
Wait a minute. I think he may have earned a seat at that table. What you think?
He got his way up. I was looking back. I said,
he got credentials.
I think he's earned it. But the point is still valid, because we do act on our feelings a lot of times. And so here's the thing I always tell people: don't ever isolate yourself by yourself. Don't you always just be the only person talking in your ear, because we may feel like a failure when in fact we are not. But again, if that's something that we believe, if that's something that we internalize, then our behaviors begin to well, they don't expect much of me anyway, so why should I try? Come on now.
And again, it goes back
Wait a minute, we hit a peanut gallery.
He got another point.
Double down on it.
What Mercy was saying, he was saying basically what that impetus. So there's an impetus that can feed into you feeling like you're a failure. There's also an impetus that can feed into you knowing or not whether you're a failure. So the question is what is the impetus? What is influencing my way of thinking? All right. And then whatever that is, I can discover that. And if we go back to the foundation to say I'm going to allow God to be that impetus to define who I am, to help me see what's right and wrong, actually right and wrong, then it'll be able to help me better understand how I need to respond to the actual failure that happens in my life.
But I think I was going right back to just ownership. Owning the fact that you may have failed. But then also deciphering what is failure to you. And then also looking at the fact that when you went about failing, What was your steps in failure?
What was it that I did?
What is it that got you to that point?
That's it. That's what Percy was saying early on. What were all of those things that led up to the failure? Because I still maintain, in the broader sense of the word, that nobody wakes up today saying I want to fail or I want to disappoint. Now we can wake up and say I want to do bad decisions and I want to do what I want to do. That's real. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, nobody wakes up. Even when you say we're going to get and wasted or whatever it is. Oh God, I can't believe I'm saying that. But even when you wake up and you say you want to do that,
right?
That ain't failure. That's something that I just want to do, and I'm willing to accept the consequences of that. Right? Because you ain't looking to fail.
You want the consequences of that are going to be negative. That means that is. Don't choose that.
So Anthony, so you tell me, when you fail, do you enjoy the consequences of failure?
No, but that's why I started off very easy when I failed, because I started off by saying I feel how I feel. I feel the disappointment. I feel the inadequacy. I feel all of the negative feelings.
Definitely.
I feel them. I embrace them. That take ownership of the fact that's what I'm experiencing. But then I let it go. I'm not. Look, I don't choose to focus on failure. Who cares? I choose to focus on what it is that how you're supposed to. All right, so when we was at camp, they would always tell the kids, you never say don't run around the pool, because kids always want to do what they're not supposed to. You tell the kids to walk. You speak in the affirmative. Who cares about the failure? Just wake up today and decide to do what you are. Focus on what you are supposed to do, and you will not fail. That'll just be it.
And so I think that's great. And I think the thing that we can say is, the failure has happened. We can't change the past. The question really becomes, what do we do from here to move forward, to overcome?
That's
what
I think.
It's always, particularly because of the work I do, is to help them understand what they were feeling, what were the beliefs that led them, that was informing them, and the other part is, what did you learn from the struggles and the challenges? I really don't use the word failure.
Okay.
Because I want to invite them to take a look at the aspect that there are challenges, there are struggles, and there's something deeper that's going on inside of me. And so I agree with you. If all I do is focus on the negative and the failure, that's why I don't use that word. I said, wait a minute, hold on. What was that belief that was informing you, which led you to carve out this sense of a negative image of yourself? What were you thinking, feeling? What do you believe was your calling, your purpose, your essence of being, and what is informing you to lead you to take these steps?
Right.
All right. What's the goal? Tell me what you wanted to accomplish. So if I can invite them into that, then we can begin to take a different angle of exploration rather than, as you said, getting up every morning. Wait a minute, I failed.
Yes.
No. What were those challenges? What was it that you wanted to accomplish? Let's go through those things, kind of like what you're saying. And let's take some accountability that maybe I did some poor strategizing, maybe I did some poor decision making, or had a poor image. And if I can reframe that, then we can start moving toward the affirmative and the beingness.
I think Percy gets to stay at the table.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He owns that.
What did I learn about myself during the pandemic?
Maybe me and a lot of people who are called introverts, I think a lot of us were like, maybe we're a little more social than we thought.
It actually showed me some things that I had to deal with inside of myself, how much anxiety I actually was dealing with.
Like, I'm very impatient. I didn't know that. I didn't know I had a lot of anger built in from whatever. I didn't realize also well how much passion I had for a lot of things and how much I love to learn.
So I see you made it to the table, Jason.
I made it to the table.
You made it to the table. Finally, you made it to the table.
It's good to be here.
You were glad LA had a game, weren't you?
That's right. Yeah.
So LA had the lead. So Jason said, finally I get to come to the table. But you know what, though, guys? I was just thinking, too, for me, this has been even as terrible as COVID-19 has been, it's been a great season for me personally, developmentally. A couple of reasons why. And the primary reason is I have been wrestling with, do I go back to school to get an MBA or do I get a Master's of Divinity? And during COVID-19, man, God spoke so clearly. He said, you about to retire from work, for real. So what you gonna do with the MBA?
Right.
So go ahead and do the Master's of Divinity, because you can do that until I bring you home to glory. And so that's what I've decided to do. So for me, I've been really able to hear clearly from God in terms of, even as we talked about earlier, purpose. Right. Man, I'm so clear and so focused on my purpose, and that's what COVID-19 during the pandemic has helped me to really hear clearly what my purpose is as I'm getting into the latter years of my life.
Oh, the latter years.
The latter years of my life. Yeah.
Now look at all this gray.
Yeah, I wasn't looking at you, Percy, when I said it.
Yeah, I saw that side. I saw it.
It's coming from both angles.
You know, when the pandemic hit, kind of like you, I started rethinking a lot of my life's journey. It was more like a biblical understanding of wilderness, you know, that moment when you go out to find you. Most times the people will interpret that text that you're going out to find some place, but you really, when you study the biblical, it is to find you. And so, you know, I started thinking about, you know, how much time I had spent building a career versus spending time with my wife and my children. So it invited me to rethink what was really valuable to me and where was I spending my time. And we talked about it in one of the other parts, you know, how was I mirroring masculinity and maleness and what it meant to be a father and a man to my son and to my daughter. So the pandemic invited me to really put a mirror up to me and say, you know, who are you really? Not, you know, beyond the titles, beyond the degrees, beyond everything else. Who are you? And so in sitting with myself and spending time with myself, there were some things I didn't like about me. And there were some things that I knew that I needed to revisit and ask myself why and who had I become? And did God intend for me to become this person that I'm presenting or projecting out?
You know, for me, I kind of come from a different angle. For me, what I've learned about myself during the pandemic was more like, I really realized how emotionally influenced I can be from social media. Right? Like seeing people's posts, even social media, that's politics, that stuff that we see on the TV, just all the things that's been coming out since the pandemic. Like I've had more time to pay attention to it now. And I realized like, man, like this is frustrating. Like this is peeing me off to see people and whatever side you land on, whichever direction you go, whether it's politics or the vaccine, should we take the vaccine? Should we wear masks? All that type of stuff. And I've had so many friends that have been posting posts on social media. I've been listening to
pro and con
for both, right? And I've just realized like, wow, I'm more connected to the world than I really even want to be. Right? It's like one post, I can see one post, or I can read one news article, right? And that article it could just take me to a place, and I just get so frustrated because I have my own perspective, I have my own beliefs, I have my own way of looking at this and conceptualizing this stuff, and it's just like, wow, these people are idiots, and I'm just gonna be honest. I'm just gonna be honest. And then at the same time, I had to realize, like, okay, like what does that mean for me to say these people are idiots, and then where I stand with my own perspective, do I give them that same liberty?
I was just going to say.
So that's something that I've learned. I'm like, wow, like I'm more connected to the world, to the social media world, emotionally than I really want to be.
Wow. I think along those same lines, it just became like so abundantly clear to me how much we fiend for just distraction. We want to focus on something. We don't really care about it. We just want to focus on something, whether it's murder hornets or whether it's the I don't know, you know, all these there's just always a new fear, a new worry, a new distraction. Always. So I mean, if it's politics, has been the latest distraction. Racial inequities, racial injustice, you know, there's been I don't know. I kind of became a little desensitized to all of it. I became just a bit. I don't. My level of care. I don't invest that much energy in all these outside opinions, because half the time they contradict one another. You know, if you don't, I'm not going to frustrate myself trying to figure out where I should focus my attention. I'm just going to wake up every day and do what I know I need to do that day. It's just that life. I don't know. Life don't have to be that hard, in my opinion. You know, I've been given a great many number of advantages in my lifetime. You know, but I think, especially in America, I think as long as you do what you're supposed to do and focus on your business, you can be very successful. You don't have to be tied down or restricted by lockdowns and restrictions, because, you know, I was just thinking, if you have that motivation, that self-determination to do what you need to do, because I like to work out, and I had got kind of lazy during the pandemic when the gym closed. So, but but when you make something your lifestyle, when you wake up every day and make it a point to do what you need to do, your decisions really aren't contingent upon what's going on around you. You know what I'm saying? The world can stop, everything can shut down, but you're going to do what you need to do. So, you know, that's just kind of like finding that ways to innovate, to keep yourself motivated, just finding different ways to keep your drive strong, you know, and to keep your focus, sharp, you know, on what it is that your mission is. I think that troubleshooting process is kind of what, I was going through during the pandemic, and just kind of resolved to do whatever it is that I need to do. If I'm studying for something, study for it. If I have to produce a paper for something, you know, just do it. You know?
So basically control what you can control.
Yeah. There you go.
There
you go.
Right.
And the other thing I think for me that I learned during the pandemic was what was really important. Yeah. And it goes back to what you were talking about, Percy, doing this whole reevaluation. What became abundantly clear was career is not all that important. Right? Because now you're not going to work. So they worked it out so you can work from home and do the telework and all that stuff. But what really became important were the relationships. That's what I learned about myself more so than anything, how much I value the relationships that are in my life, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, building this relationship with my grandkids. Because at the end of the day, the stock market's going to do what it's going to do. Right. Even when we look at our government, right, and they were talking about wear a mask, don't wear a mask, take the vaccine, don't take the vaccine, it's safe, it's not. All of those questions, all of those things, and if we're looking outside of our source, which for me is God, right? I believe that. Then we can become neurotic, because on one day they're telling us wear a mask, on another day they're telling us not. But it became important, the sanctity of life, because during COVID there were people healthy. We know that the preponderance of them were overwhelmingly had other issues, but the sanctity of life became abundantly clear to me during the pandemic. That's one of the things I really became appreciative of, was life and relationships.
And I think piggybacking on all of you, one of the things that I had to do was, what is it that I am trying to avoid inside of me? Okay. What is it that I'm trying to avoid by running to this career? What is it by getting doctorate degrees, by doing, what is it? Am I really fulfilling a purpose? Wow. Am I really understanding God summoning me to be in the world, versus am I trying to achieve these kinds of rewards, labels, based upon what society has said? And so for me, it was to step back and kind of like, I love what you said when you turned around and you said, but I had privilege. See, the aspect of it was when I did not have that and I was trying to achieve it, I had a different purpose. I was trying to survive. I was trying, so I'm making, I'm making decisions. Now, as I'm doing this reflection, I can do it from a different place than when I was younger. And so what has this transgression, this progression been for me, that now I'm a man who's got some means that I can do these things, versus...
We know you're a baller person. We already know.
I wish.
We already know.
I wish. I'm like you, I wish. We already know. But it's like you say, but wait a minute, as I reach this age now, these words in the Hebrew that come up to talk about
me. There you go, y'all. Here you go again. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm trying to show you that I got educated.
I'm going to pull out my strongs in a minute, brother. I'm going to pull it out. Go ahead. I'm the bridge version, that one.
when I was his age, you know, I was this younger man that was a warrior. See, that's a word that they use for a warrior, one who has this virility. Yeah. That's another word.
I got it, brother. I got you.
But I'm a man of wisdom. I ain't got that kind of strength or that warrior. I can go out here. And I mean, you know, we don't talk to brothers, I think, to talk about, you know, where are you in the stage of your manhood. And so
that's so good.
The pandemic caused me to really sit back and say, you know, I'm not this dude. And that a part of that was to grieve it. I'm not that dude. I'm not this young man. Right. You know, and it's okay. I need to celebrate with him. You know, rather than see him as an enemy, I need to celebrate with him. I need to grieve the fact that I'm not. And then I need to celebrate. I'm an older brother now that
you know what, and I'm gonna take issue with you on that though. I don't grieve the fact that I'm not a young man anymore. I embrace the fact.
You know,
I do. I celebrate. No, I do. I do.
Is that because you still look that good?
No.
That's what it is.
He still look that. You look
like he ain't took too many plates off the bench press. It's okay. It's all right. I still got that.
That's right.
But in all seriousness, though, I celebrate the fact. But I hear what you're saying, though. I do. There are things that I cannot do.
Right.
When I was his age, I could do them. There are things I cannot do now. But I celebrate where I am because it's only by God's grace that we even have arrived at this stage of life. And so I love this relationship, this fellowship where we, as older men, can now sit at the table. Not that I understand a lot of times what they talk about. Like, what did you say? You get bags? What was that?
Oh, get a bag. It's
get a bag. So the lingo,
money,
I got
financially.
But the fact that we can have this conversation, this fact that I can learn from you, you can learn from me. I love this, right? So I embrace the fact that I'm at this stage of my life. I do. I embrace it.
I think mine is evolving. To that, because the aspect of it is for a lot of us, we keep running and we keep running and we keep running, and the aspect of it is we never reflect to say, you know what I'm saying, like you said, let me celebrate the fact that God has extended me these many years, and where I was an athlete, where I was this, where I was that, you know what, I'm not that. And it's okay.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
Rather than, because I think that's what leads to a lot of competition. The aspect of it is I'm still trying to prove that I'm that dude, and I'm not. And that really is.
And it really is okay.
Because it's a blessing.
So would you guys say the pandemic has been an accelerator for a lot of guys, maybe in your seat at your age bracket, to say, like, me being now stuff been shut down, I can't work, I can't pursue that career, I can't do the things that I'm used to doing on a continual basis. Now that I'm basically having to reflect, do you think for a lot of guys y'all's age, it's like now, like, man, this is where I am. Like, do I celebrate or do I grieve? Do you think that's
a great question?
Is that the fundamental midlife crisis? Do I celebrate where I am or do I grieve where I was?
Perfect.
I would say
I would definitely say yes.
So, but let me ask you, let me flip the script on you though. So, but as a young man, has the pandemic caused you to reflect, or what? Because I'm really curious, right? So, because we've got a few more years, but as a younger man, I would think it would cause you to at least look at life's choices. I don't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I think for me, it really made me think more. It gave me some sort of a slight anxiety, I can say, because when things started to shut down, obviously the financials start to be a little harder, right? And then it makes you think like, wow, I'm about to be 40, okay? And then on top of that, you have the wife, and the wife has her desires. She has her things that she wants to accomplish as it relates to, I want a house, I want this, I want that, right? And I have 5 kids, right? 18 all the way down to 2.
He fruitful and multiplying. So Jesus, we need to hold the prayer vigil right here.
No problem with that command right there.
So you about to make a brother drink.
So what it looked like for me is that, so yes, with the pandemic, it did bring it added some anxiety. It accelerated some anxiety in me, like, wow, okay, like, what is the next 5 to 10 years going to look like for me? You know, especially given I'm not where I really want to be. Right? I'm not where I want to be, but You know, what do I need to do now? Because again, I'm right at 40, and I start to get the little tingles in my fingers, like, oh man, I'm getting there, right? I'm getting there. I'm starting to have grays, and I'm starting to pop in the morning. I have to crack my neck and my back, and it's not the same, right? So so that's kind of how it looked for me.
Yeah.
That's real. I like that. I feel that maybe on a little lesser level, but definitely just taking inventory of what I've accomplished. You got a lot of time to think when you're at home a lot. It's like, what have I accomplished? Not so much like the quality of life I've enjoyed, because I'm not. That's I've enjoyed my life. But what have I accomplished? You know, so that is kind of that you just have time to. You know, once you staring at your room for 23 hours a day, it's like, all right, I've seen this, seen the TV, seen all this. You know what I'm saying?
With a mask on.
Seen it all. Now it's like, all right, well now let's look inside. This is the only place left to look at that point.
There you go.
You know, and then you start to ask yourself questions that maybe you didn't ask before because of the ever-present distractions. You know, So that, but I second that for sure. I second that.
I think there's some spiritual questions. I was sitting there listening to you, that really, as you said, I started looking inside. Because, working with pastors, working with, individuals who wonder what the church is going to be like, financial questions, they really are wrestling with what will the church be, what will our community be, how will it manifest itself, who's going to come back, who's not going to come back.
Those are real questions.
Very real.
Those are real questions.
Yeah, and so, you, as a man, as a family provider, in certain stages and ages, the pandemic, as you said, I've done all this. I've been looking outside. Now to sit with the inside and to hear God's voice. And have I been, there is the Reverend Dr. Gardner Calvin Taylor. Dr. Taylor once prayed, and I was there. I was blessed to be there. And he said, we have come this morning to encounter a God that has created us, bringing the gods that we have created.
Wow.
And so for me, when I was listening to him talk about external and internal, this pandemic has brought me to that point. God, what voice, Moses on that mountain, who shall I say? What have I created these gods?
That's good.
And are you now crucifying, killing those gods in my life? And how do I hear you? How do I discern? So the pandemic has invited, that moment of, what is my faith? And who is it? Who is it that summoned me? And who is it that's called me?
And I think, to your point, I love that. And I think the pandemic has silenced all of the distractions so that God says now, choose God or choose man, right? Because he silenced all of our distractions, our football, our baseball,
everything.
Our basketball, our work, everything, to say now is me and you.
That's good.
Is me and you.
That's it.
So where do you go?
That's it.
Right?
That's it. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Can a man still be valuable or useful after he's messed up?
I think I've learned way more from failing than I've ever learned from anything else.
And those times are probably more valuable because people don't necessarily want someone perfect, they just want someone who relates. So I think when you're at your lowest, it's like, okay, cool, well at least if you're here in my life, then you're trying, and I think that's what people really look for, because sometimes perfect isn't relatable.
That shifted for me when I fell in love with Jesus, when my dependency became on Jesus, when I stopped looking to the world for my answers and I sought what God was saying.
We just don't know what to expect. Complaining! This is big.
Hey.
Hey. Hey.
You good?
Yeah. Hey.
What are you doing?
Sermon. Got a sermon here. TD, the old thing. You know.
Well, it must be good. Maybe we can watch it together.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I thought you were going out.
I mean, I am, but maybe next time. Enjoy your sermon.
So guys, can a man still be valuable or used by God when he messes up?
I sure hope so. I mean, cause that, that I sure hope so. Yes, I'm gonna definitely say yes. I mean, 9 times out of 10, those are the most powerful testimonies. You know what I'm saying? The ones where you had to go through something and came out the other side, where they know you had moments of weakness, where they know, you know, you felt where your faith was tested, you know, because everybody's going to be in that position at one time or another. So, you know, to have an example of someone coming through the other side speaks volumes, because that encourages others to be able to, you know, do the same thing. We really, because it's all going to come down to really how faithful are you, you know, to God's word. Like how much faith do you have that things are going to be okay? That's really is what it's going to all come down to, because if you don't have faith, then how can he use you if you're not in a position to hear and trust him? You know what I'm saying? Because then what direction, who are you taking direction from to get out of the mess that you created? You know what I'm saying? Because if you're in a mess, 10 times out of 10 you did create it. You know what I'm saying? Well, at least in your adult life, because I don't know, it's, you know, I guess kids it may be different, you know, but as men, to be a man, can you still be used by God? I think absolutely. You just have to really grasp on to that the whole concept of repentance. That's like that's the whole thing that Christianity, that's the beauty and the brilliance of Christianity, is that all that repentance means is you can still be used by God as long as you express contriteness, you know, as long as that's you've resolved that that's no longer a mess that you want to endure, you know, that's no longer a place that you want to be. So I think that the whole Jesus wouldn't have done. The whole point to me is that you can still have relationship with God even if you've messed up.
Yeah.
So.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say I totally agree with that, and I think sometimes we are quick to try to get past the repentance. You actually mentioned that word. So Doc, I'm going to go ahead and steal part of yours. That means to turn. Okay, so
that's the Greek and the
Hebrew. That's the Greek and the Hebrew. It means to turn. Yeah, and so, but in all seriousness, though. Because, and you said this, and it means that we are no longer going down that path, right? So we can mess up and then we can give lip service, right, to our spouses or to our loved ones, saying we're not doing it. But the truth of the matter is we're lying because we're still doing it. But when we've truly turned from that life, that vice, that whatever it is, right, that's got us, then yes. And then there's the other part of that, Anthony, is restoration. We can be restored. Right. So let's not forget about the restoration piece of it also.
You know, I just think about, just even with the question, I don't think it's a matter of if God can use you. I don't think it's a matter of God's ability to be able to use anybody.
That's good.
Because God can use innate things to be able to fulfill his purpose, right?
Rocks and bushes and everything else.
Right, to fulfill his purpose. I think the question goes into, you know, how do you see that mess up? How do you see that failure? What is the lens through which you're seeing that, right? And whatever that lens is, that's going to determine whether or not you want to be used by God, right? So if I made a mistake, if I mess up, if I just make a stupid decision, or continue to make stupid decisions, now I have to say, okay, how do I look at that decision or decisions that I've made, right? And I want to look at that through how God sees it. Because if I look at it through how mom sees it, if I look at it through how my dad or anybody else society sees this, then I think that's part of the reason why there are a lot of people that are not allowing God to use them. Is because they're seeing what they've done or are doing through the lens of everybody else instead of through God's lens. So once I grab God's lens through his word and I say, He loves me. He accepts me. He forgives me. It's not a condition that I need to meet for him to love me. Amen. When I see it through that, then I have to also accept his forgiveness for me. So I can understand it, but now how do I accept that? I accept his forgiveness, that he cares for me. I'm his son. Goes back to that purpose and identity piece. Once I get there, then I believe that we are able to allow God to use. Again, doesn't go to God's ability. Amen. He can do whatever. It's do we want to allow him to do that?
Jason,
we have to go to that.
You said something very key, though. Yeah. One of the toughest things for us to do is forgive ourselves.
That's exactly it.
That's one of the toughest things to do, especially when you're talking about, if we're talking about infidelity, where we've got a wife and we've got children, and now they're looking at us, and we believe that they're looking at us as tarnished and blemished, and we're not the man that they thought that they were. We're not the father that they thought we were. We're not the husband that they thought we were. And that's a tough place for a man to come back from. Yeah. It's a tough place. And so one of the toughest things I think is for a man or anybody, but since we're talking about men, to forgive ourselves. Yeah. I think that's really, really key. Even when we know that God loves and God forgives, we still beat ourselves up. We still beat ourselves up.
One of the things in the biblical writ is that most throughout the reading, you consistently see individuals, human beings, who fall short, who stumble, who fail, outright disobey. You just,
Did you say outright?
Outright.
Outright. That's
right. And an aspect of it is that since I integrate psychology and spirituality, the aspect of it is for me.
We couldn't tell that.
I know.
We couldn't tell. Is that for real?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the aspect of it is that when you really take a look at it, again, it's always, there's something for me always underneath. It's like if you look at Jeremiah or Jeremiah, you start looking at someone who his family has already been thrown out because he's a part of that high priest during the time of David who gets sent down to Anathoth. And so he's been rejected. Now, all of a sudden, this young boy hearing this voice,
a teenager
of God, to go up and to confront. And he's going to stumble because he's going to have to deal with abandonment, rejection. He's got to deal with those underlying factors. Or David, you were born not of this family. You are the son of Jesse. However, there's questions about your mother and that birthing. And am I really supposed to be? So there are these other underlying that leads to behaviors that cause me to find myself distance or to fall or to fail. And so the aspect of it is, can God use? Yes. Because of. Okay. You know, this whole Paul and being this wounded healer. You know, my own wounds, my own fears, my own uncertainties, all of these things. And I think you nailed it. We can't, in many instances, because of society, because of family, because of all of these expectations, we can't receive the grace. This unmerited favor because I'm not living up to this perfect image and perception. And so because I don't, then I go out and I say, well, God can't use me, and then I sabotage myself.
Amen.
You continue down that same road. Right. And I think another thing too that it's not out as talked about is God doesn't use you because you're good.
You better come on.
God uses you because He's good.
Yes.
And I think if we can get, and that helped me some years ago when I really took in that principle that, okay, God's not selecting me because I'm gifted, because I look this way, because I have this degree. He can care less about those things. God is just looking for a willing vessel, a willing individual that will say, God, for whatever I am, for whatever worth I am, use me. Not because I'm good. Again, it's because you're good.
And the way I love the way that sums that up is, and I never forgot this, he says, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Right? So it's because of His grace and His mercy anyway. So we can have all the degrees, we can have all of this, we could be this perfect person, but if our heart ain't right, and if God says, no, your heart is jacked up. But now we could be jacked up according to the world, but God says, but your heart is so tender towards me, I'm going to use you.
Right. And the aspect of it is to be able to go back and to look at, you know, what is it that I'm valuing? What is it that's going on? You know, what again led me to these decisions? What led me?
Yes.
What was going on in my inner
That's
world
really good.
that was going on that moved me toward these decisions and these choices? That's that whole, and you was all back and forth in the dialogue, that repentance. Because that repentance has to do with, wait a minute, I need to sit down and I need to reflect on, wait a minute, what was going on that led me? Well, Avram, you were scared. You were terrified, which means that it led you to start lying. You didn't want to take this responsibility and trust this God.
Wait a minute, Doc, wait a minute. You mean people lie when they scared?
Bruh, they gonna lie, they gonna do everything. Because I can't deal with the fact of how, you know, the aspect of it is if I get confronted, if I get, so, and I want to project out this image that I need to. So I'm gonna lie. David, when you really take a look at it and you put these biblical stories together, David ends up with Bathsheba because the writer says at the time of war, the men have gone out. Well, David, you up in the palace.
Yeah.
What you doing at the, you're supposed to be the man. But when you look at the story and correlate it, what happened is the last time David went out, David almost got him and his men killed. You ain't the warrior you used to be. And you ain't dealt with, you ain't the warrior. And so all of a sudden, how do I then affirm being told by the brothers, you can't hang with us. You ain't the man. Oh, there's a woman down.
Yeah.
So what's going on with me?
Yeah, you know what? To that point, so a question just came, as you was talking, just a question just came to mind. So a lot of, we're talking about men, right? There are a lot of men who've grown up without a man in their life, right?
That's it.
And they've been neglected, they've been rejected, they've been abused mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever it may be. You know, and it's just making me think, to what degree does having that absent father, even if for me, my father was present, but he was absent.
There you go.
Right?
That's exactly.
He was in the home, he was working, but he was absent.
Right.
So I didn't get that affirmation. I didn't get that acceptance. I didn't get that fatherly figure looking me in my eyes and telling me that I love you, right? And so the offspring of that would be me feeling like when I make mistakes or when I make these dumb decisions, my father never showed me what acceptance and love unconditionally looks like in the natural, right? So it's hard for me to be able to conceptualize and to believe that really God, right, would accept me, that God has forgiven me because of these things that I've done. So, like, what did that look like for you guys? Is that something that you kind of wrestle with or think through?
Oh, most definitely. You know, even in my work, that's been one of the things, because I'm like you. My dad was there. My dad was extremely hard worker growing up in Alabama, and working 2-3 jobs, you know, just to keep food. But never was that, I'm gonna affirm you. I'm gonna do this. You know, you talk to him, he say, the lights on it. You got food. You got food.
Stomach growling. Well, that's long. That's not okay. You're not hungry.
But the aspect, and then for the society to turn around and tell you, don't touch or get in connection with your feelings. Don't do that. That's not masculine. That's not being a man. So whenever you start feeling this thing, so you do struggle with, surely if I mess up, I've let them down, I've let them down, I'm not lovable. And so that there is always that struggle of rejection and abandonment, and this sense of an image of always chasing Superman. That I've got to be this perfect Superman. And so what really happens is I'm never gonna live up. So why even try? Or I'm always living around with this, there's something missing.
And two things, Doc, I'll say to that have really helped me. Number one is God always has a ram in the bush. See, I was always looking for the thing, and God says, wait a minute, or always missing what I didn't have. And God says, hold on now, you got a coach, you got a teacher, you got a mentor, you have an elder, somebody, there is a father, a granddad, an uncle, there's somebody that plays that role in your life. I've given you a ram in the bush. And the second thing is that we can't be perfect.
No.
We can't be perfect, but we can be authentic.
Bam.
Let our children, let the men in our lives see the authentic person, And in doing so, right now, I know I have struggles, I have issues, but my love for God is real. And it doesn't negate who I am. It doesn't negate my love for God because I have struggles and I have issues, but I'm authentic. And when they see authenticity, they will be drawn to it.
Yes. That's what I really like is what you just said. To be able to, we use the term mirroring.
Okay.
You mirror that, wait a minute, I don't need to be perfect.
Don't need to be
okay?
perfect.
And I'm not going to be
Not
perfect.
even trying.
I'm struggling with certain things, but that gives that younger brother an opportunity to understand I don't have to be.
Amen.
I don't have to
Yeah.
be. And so one of the things, kind of like you, I wanted to do with my son was to turn around and tell him, no, I'm not perfect. You know, I'm not gonna be. I got a lot of faults, and here they are, and here's what's going on. I'm here with you. Let's talk about it. Let's share. Let me mirror for you. What does it mean to be human?
That's it.
Okay? Yeah. Even when I used to sit down and read comic books with my son, one of the things that I looked at is that one of the comic books they came up with, Superman never came and became Clark Kent. And he goes crazy. In the comic book.
Wow.
Because you can't hold that mirror, you can't hold that model without some humanness coming in. And so he and I were able to talk about that, about being human, that there's a balance between the divine and between humanness. And that you got to be able to share with younger brothers, hey, but God loves me. But God, even in spite of all of this, and that God can still use me. Yeah.
Man, that was great. Practical information to help us live better lives as men of God. I hope you really enjoyed it. Listen, if you want to find out more information about the Men of New Mercies, go to newmerciescc.org/men to get more information. Listen, stay noble, and we hope to see you soon.